Hey there everybody, it's Nathan Cool with nathancoolphoto.com, and in this tutorial I want to advance a little bit from the last two videos that I posted, working with Flash Ambient Blend, working with some color problems. And one of the most common things that I hear is that as I'm using Flambient, that Flash Ambient Blend, I'm starting to get some washed out colors, or I'm getting some strange colors also, like a little bit of orange maybe in the distance, things of that nature. Now, the last couple videos that I had that you can check back on this, and there's a link over here that you can check also for the most recent video that I posted, and there's one before that also, dealing with a couple issues that you may have with either debayering or something else that's going on. So you can check that out if you haven't seen those yet. And of course, some of this is talked about in not only the book on interiors, book number 1 in my series, but also in the advanced editing book, book number 2, and I've got links to the entire series down in the description for this video. But in this video, I'm going to show you two examples and why, if things aren't properly lit, you could start getting those problems with the washed out look, or sometimes a little bit of orange. Now this is a little bit different from seeing a real hard looking gray spot, or a real harsh looking orange streak that may be coming from a real deep shadow. And those of course I've talked about in other videos as well, and also in the advanced editing book. But this is a common problem where you think you did everything right, it all looks right, you lit the room, you go ahead and you put then a luminosity layer on top of it, your ambient and luminosity mode, but things don't look quite right. So this is taking it one step further. It's a minor little thing, but it can make a big difference in the final product. You want to see how to deal with this and where it comes from? Let's get started. So what I'm going to do is show two examples. This is an ambient shot of a kitchen, and I've got some other footage down here that goes along with it. And this is the one we're going to start with. This is an ambient shot of a living room that has some maple wood built-ins. Now, this hasn't been completely adjusted for verticals and everything. You see there's some rotation. I'm going to show you the final product, but this is just footage that has just some simple lens correction done on it. So we can get the starting point, see what's really going on. Now, in this, for this example, what I did was I shot just using the Explorer 600 near the camera. Now this is a little on the dark side, and I exaggerated it with a little bit of too low of light, and you can see that by the histogram here. I'm left of center, and as you know in my books and videos I talk about being a little right of center, but it is exposing the foreground nice. But this will show you where the problem's coming from. Now typically in a room like this, when I see that I'm flashing my Explorer and I'd have to turn up the light a lot just to get the light to shed to the far end of the room, I do a composite, and this is going to be very important when we get into showing where this problem's coming from. So here's me on one side of the room, here's me on the other side of the room. So now let's see, and you can see I was moving around really quick just gathering this footage. So let's take a look now at what this would look like in Photoshop as we do the Flash Ambient Blending. So I've already loaded up Open as Layers in Photoshop. You've seen me do this before. If not, you might want to review some of the earlier videos. And once again, this is step-by-step in book number 1. But anyway, so this is our ambient layer on top. Let's just shut him off for a second. This is that flash shot. And I'm just going to use this as an example, but let's take our composite and put that together just real quick. So if I were to take what I call the repair shot for the composite, put it up above here, layer mask hide, and I'm just going to brush in then 100% of him just to get rid of me out of that side. I'll zoom out a little bit, make sure that I've got myself taken out. Okay, so now I've got a composite going on here. Let me just erase a little bit of that, got a little too much. Okay, so now we've got a composite, and we've had now two different virtual shots. One that's with the low light using just one light, and then here's one that's better lit with a composite. Okay, so if we were to now take a look, I'll go ahead and to make this easier, you can see also this guy would be turned off, turned on. So if I were to take this luminosity shot, our ambient shot, excuse me, and turn him into luminosity mode, you can see what immediately happens. So here the wood is washed out. That's not what the wood looks like. You might like the color of the paint a little bit, but the rest of that looks washed out. If I were to remove then, take away our low level, low light shot and turn on the ambient, you can see the colors look better in that wood. This is with the low light shot, it's washed out. This is then with the composite, and the color looks better. So what's going on here? So let's turn off that ambient shot altogether. Now, if I were to go to our shot that shows, and this is the bottom layer of where the wood is. Remember, this is a composite. The one above it is just covering up me flashing. So let's go ahead and sample the color of where that wood is. So let's take, for instance, this section up here in the wood, since that's kind of an even color. I'll take my color picker, and this is just to show you an example of what's going on. I'm going to just click in that area, and you can see where the color is, okay? Now if I go to the low light shot and I sample that same area with the color picker, you'll notice something will change. Notice how dark it went into the spectrum. You can see the two colors right here with the new and the current. Obviously I've got a lot of low light, so the color is going to be a lot darker. It's not the look that we're really after. So then what happens is when we try to add luminosity on top of that, a luminosity mode is dealing with only light. In other words, it's trying to now lighten something that's in a shadow, something that's in a dark range. So when it does that, it becomes somewhat washed out. If we were to just lighten something that has color to it, then we actually get more of the true color coming through. Now you can see some of the other artifacts over here from over flashing, and I've got those tutorials online as well, and in the advanced book as I mentioned. So that's where that problem's coming from. So by using the composite then, instead of just a simple flash shot, we get a completely different look to it. So instead of being washed out in this case, then we can have something that has a richer look. It's more like that. And the reason being is because we evenly flashed it, okay? So when this was all said and done, by the way, and I did all the editing to it, the final product looked like this. Okay, let's move on to the second example. So this one's going to be a little bit more subtle, and you'd think that this would be just fine. Here's our ambient shot, and here's just one shot with the Explorer. Now you can see that I'm not getting enough light into the distance, so there's not a lot of light back here, in the corner. Now you can see the colors here, and that may seem like, oh, that's okay. You can see that, well, I've got white cabinets, the paint looks okay. This is going to be a subtle difference, and you might be able to get away with it, but when I see this, I'm having a struggle with it. I'll just do a couple quick pops. I run over to one side, pop. You can see I'm lighting this side now better. And then I just quickly walk over to the other side and do another pop. The whole time, by the way, the Explorer 600 or whatever light you're using for your main light is still by the camera. That doesn't change. All I'm doing here with these composites is I'm adding some extra light into the distance, into the far end of the room. So let's take a close look at that in Photoshop. So open those as layers in Photoshop already so we can get a head start on this. Here's our ambient shot. So let's go ahead and just shut that off for a second. This is also just flash without a composite, and we'll make the composite real quick by just hiding the layer mask on one and then brushing in where we need to make a full composite. Okay, so that looks good there. Maybe blend that in just a little bit more. And of course, I've got more videos and stuff in the books on how to do this if you've never seen it done before. And don't worry about me over here in the distance. That gets taken out with a window pull later. Anyways, now let's turn on, and we'll zoom in here a little bit. We can see what's going on here, especially at this corner. Let's turn our ambient shot into luminosity mode. Okay, now it may be imperceivable. That may look pretty good. Of course, we would paint in, obviously, just the certain portions of it. But now what happens if I take away, this is luminosity over top of the dark flash shot. If I then reveal the composite, you can see a whiter look. Let me zoom in a little bit more and you'll be able to see that a little bit better. So at 100%, you can see this is our composite, and we're doing luminosity over top of a better lit area. Once I turn on the lower lit area, it starts turning orange. I'm going to turn this on and off so you can see this clearer. So this is low light shot, composite, low light shot, composite, and you can see the big difference. The reason being is that it's also casting some of the other color that was coming in, so my flash wasn't becoming the dominant white balance for that. So when this was all said and done, by the way, the final product looked like this. So that's why if you're using flash ambient blending, the Flambient, you might start seeing some washed out colors, you might start seeing some orange being introduced. They're usually very subtle hints. And the reason being, once again, is that if you're trying to work into a dark area, you're starting to get into that low level light area of the color spectrum that you're working with. If you're adding luminosity mode on top of that, you're trying to bring out the light from that. Well, that's already lost most of its color, so it's going to be washed out. The other end of the spectrum can turn things kind of orange a little bit also. That's why too, you've probably seen this if you're shooting flash ambient blending, you've got a ceiling fan and you flash your flash just a little bit forward, you're casting a harsh shadow, and then you try flash ambient blending, you get a massive orange glow up there. And if you try to do it on a highlight area that's something that has like a reflection into it from your flash, and you put flash ambient blending on top of that in luminosity mode, you start getting gray. Orange and gray, those are the two other ends of what luminosity mode is dealing with. If you're in too high of the spectrum, you're near the white clipping zone, or if you're near too dark of a spectrum in the black clipping zone. What I showed here is something that's in between. It's just where we don't have enough light to really get the true representation of color throughout the entire frame, and of course that's going to cause some issues. So a real quick tip for that, if you're shooting small rooms, it's no big deal, you can get away with it. If you're shooting the longer rooms, that's when you have to start bringing in some compositing and light the entire area. Remember, light isn't just to fill in the shadows, it's also by using flash, we're getting a more correct color. As I showed in the more recent videos, and I talk about in the books, is that when you control the light, you control the white balance. So if you're not getting light from your flashes someplace, you're no longer controlling the white balance, you're no longer controlling the color. Anyways, I hope this tutorial was useful for you and that you can use some of this in your photography as well. If you did like this video, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It won't cost anything, and as soon as one of these videos is posted, you'll be the first to know. Thanks a lot for watching. Until next time, take care, be safe, and get out there and shoot something.